does it mean to seek perfection? For the first year that I'd been restoring a 1947 wooden race boat called a Kettenberg PC-32, I'd been obsessed with learning how to do everything correctly. Because I knew so little about the boat, I wanted to learn why the previous owner had restored the boat in a certain way, and what effect it would have if I changed things. I feared damaging the boat or making a fool of myself by doing something reckless, so I played it safe. And by doing so, I was taking too long to finish some of the much-needed repairs. Over the course of months of work and a lot of research, I came to find out that the previous owner had made changes that other PC owners had not agreed with. But a boat is a unique and personal extension of the one who sails her. And as my confidence grew, I finally began to make changes that would better suit me, perfect or not. The work on our Haven 12.5 was anything but perfect. And little did we know at the time, but we were about to make even more mistakes as we worked on.
So guys, I guess we can't find the brand new plans that we bought. We've got some of them, but we can't find this main one. I think it's in Greg R's locker. So this is the 27-year-old version that we're gonna work from today. But Greg, why don't you explain what all this means?
No, I don't. You want me to explain all this means?
What we're doing and where we've been.
Yeah, where do you start when you're looking at plans like this? What do you start looking at? How do you decode all this stuff?
You know,
what does it mean?
it depends on what you're working on. For example, you'll see like this sheet here. This has all these curvy lines. Well, what are these? Well, these are the molds. The framework for the molds, right?
In the old days, this is basically how they would display the shape of the boat. And you'd have a table of offsets. And by offset, they mean the distance at any certain point to a fixed reference point. And so you would have to take all of that information from the table of offsets, from these drawings. The whole table of offsets is on another sheet. But that's what defines these lines. But a lot of modern people trying to sell plans to folks like us who want to build a boat, they go and do all of that. So you don't have to do, the process is called lofting, and you don't have to do it because they've done that for you. So we could take these shapes and use those to make each of the molds. So this is number 18. So here's the shape of number 18.
We've got a mold, right? And then we steam bent one frame and steam bent the other, right? And now you have to tie those two together. And you have to tie them in such a way that the keel, the laminated keel that's we're going to do, will rest on those floors and follow the curve of the boat. We're going to make the floors, right? What are the floors? Well, they're these little guys right here.
There's a floor, so the ribs are riveted to the floors. The floors are bolted to the keel. This is the centerboard trunk that the centerboard goes through. That's only in this section here.
This tells us the thickness, how thick to make them. And then when we look up here, we can see where we have to drill holes for various bolts to do various things.
There's something about a wooden structure floating in an ocean, being propelled by sail, that is an experience that I've not been able to replicate in any other way. There's just something about it. This is who we are as human beings. This is our history. This is our culture. This is who we are, you know? People in the year 800 using hatchets and chisels, cut down trees and shaped planking and sailed across the Atlantic. This is a really deep part of just humanity. Some of the oldest stuff they have found in excavating 10, 12, 13,000-year-old sites where humans had settled, you know, that were near the ocean was some kind of device that they used to get out on the water. I think it was Herman Melville in the first couple of pages of Moby Dick talks about how you take anyone and set them down anywhere, and they'll start walking, and inevitably what they're walking towards is the ocean or some other body of water. We're drawn to that. That's part of who we are as human beings. And so to me, that's like the amorphous, kind of emotional, almost spiritual aspect of this.
If you look at these tables here, it tells you the height of this structure from the construction baseline, which would be the platform we have it on. The height from here to the bottom of that is given here. So you can check that and make sure your mold is the right height. Right? Then there's a cleat that goes on, and those lines should be where the cleat is. So it gives you the cleat height. And that one for number 18 ought to be 30 5/8.
Well, that's exactly what it is.
So we'll need to fasten that cleat on. We'll take a piece of stock once this is on like that.
This is Purple Heart. This is grown in Central America. Purple Heart's really great for its rot resistance, no question about it.
And then cut that out, but there's a bevel to it. There's a table that shows you the angle of the bevel for each one of each frame. So you can just put your bevel gauge there and pick that bevel up, and we'll set the bandsaw table to pick that angle up. So when we cut the shape that corresponds with the frame, it'll also cut the bevel into it. One of the lessons is just keep double checking. Everything. The cleats set a little.
What do you think? Is the cleat wrong?
Yeah, could be. But I mean, we're talking about.
Well, let's start.
It's hard to.
Let's start over. Let's measure.
No. I got my tool and bring it in there.
Okay.
Yeah. It's an 1/8 low. And at the end of the day, if nothing rests on that.
No one's ever going to say about a wooden boat, how do we dispose of this thing now? Whereas with fiberglass boats, that is a very real environmental problem. There are literally millions of fiberglass hulls, and they're no longer really usable, and the technology to get rid of them is brand new. No one's really thought that through, like, okay, what do we do with this hull now? There are organizations, mostly in Europe, that are grinding up the fiberglass and adding it to concrete. No one ever is going to have that problem with a wooden boat, like the coasting schooners that will run up a creek. In 50 years, there will be no evidence that that thing ever existed. It's gone. It's just become part of the landscape again. And becomes part of the soil that grew that tree in the first place. It is, I think, kind of a really good model for a sustainable lifestyle. If you take something, build something with it, at the end of its lifespan, you can basically put it back into the earth, and it becomes nutrients that then feed the next generation of trees that are going to grow. It is inherently sustainable.
You're building a boat now.
Right.
You know, until now it's just been loose pieces.
Right.
Now we're actually putting some of the loose pieces together, and it's the beginning.
What's the rigging for this version? Because I noticed there's two versions.
You can go either way. The pros and the cons are a gaff rig is traditional, shorter mast, easier to build, less height, so a little bit more stability because this doesn't have a full keel. The, Marconi rig or whatever it's called, better performance, easier to maneuver with, but you're going to get wind up high, and this is a centerboard boat. But you'll be amazed at how stable this boat feels when you get inside this 16-foot boat. It feels like a 25-foot boat.
Wow.
And I've sailed the originals in Maine at the Wooden Boat School with the full keel, and they don't immediately feel any different. But you're never going to have the righting moment on a centerboard boat with a shoe keel that you have on a deep keeled boat. So it'll go over.
Yeah.
It's too windy here is the problem here in LA for this little boat. If you want to go out, you can. We used to go out in Santa Monica Bay all the time. And, if you've got big rollers are not a problem. What's a problem is a lot of chop and wind. You get wet.
Yeah.
Well, you don't get wet because you're sitting there with the pillar. Your wife who's in front gets wet. It does not go well.
You can see where he planed it right there. You can see it's fresh wood as opposed to this old stuff.
So you've got to plane off the frame so that it's So this face and this face sit against each other. If stuff's not mated close on boats, it works loose.
Hey, see how I'm doing it? Thumbs,
Yeah.
thumb things,
Uh-huh.
fingers here, thumbs,
Okay.
thumbs and fingers. Yeah.
Okay.
Do you have to clamp the other side?
Yeah, I just want to make sure I wasn't going to get it.
I see.
On.
It's really a lesson in problem solving. Looking at something, taking that three-dimensional shape and saying, the way to make this fit, the way to make this sound, the way to give this thing integrity is through this set of problem solving skills.
If we want more wood on this side,
Yeah.
right, then I think that there's a really good way to figure it out. Let's get another piece of wood and run it through.
Better off. Saw something you don't care about.
High fives on bottom, right? Should have been. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, taking over the frame mold.
Is that what you're looking for?
Because if it was backwards, we still have enough stock to have redone it on that side. That's why you check.
You are a brilliant man.
There, now you begin to see how it looks. We'll at least get one frame done today, one floor done.
Look how we're gloating.
And then I'm
we're
gonna
so
call-
happy.
Look at that. Yeah, you can see that if we put our clamps back on, should old frame is good. Okay.
Oh, I see now. I couldn't figure out why I kept losing the line. Now I know, because the line was curved.
When we lay a fairing batten over this, when it's all set up, it should be near perfect. I must have cut the limber holes first.
A limber hole allows fluids, seawater, to travel back and forth in the boat and find the lowest spot so you can then just bail it out. You don't want water to be trapped in compartments, and that's what happens when you have a ribbed boat. It'll get trapped.
This says limber holes should be 3/4 of an inch wide and a 1/2 inch deep. Now,
Yeah.
they've got this 3/4. I say 1 inch.
All right. Do it.
1 inch. So
Your
1/2
experience-
inch
Yeah.
on either side. This is the low point of the boat in amongst these frames, and so if everything's working properly, you can stand on the bow of the boat and cause all the water to basically run into this section. And so you depress the bow of the boat, which is very easy to do. Right?
Getting anal here.
Remember what the old boat builder says,
Just
don't make it too nice. It's only
a boat.
Now, does that look right?
Something seems wrong.
Now, okay, there is.
Why did we put this on the wrong spot? Did we put that on the wrong spot?
No, it's in the middle.
No, I mean, is it
mean
on
it's-
the side?
It's supposed to be on this side
Yeah.
and this side. Is that what you're saying?
Okay. So we gotta cut a plug for that.
You know.
My fault. I marked the wrong side.
It ain't the first time someone's done like that.
That's completely my fault. You're really going to show this screwing up, aren't you?
Yeah, we got it.
It's the most fun we have. I mean, that's the pot blowing up on that one was the most drama we've had so far.
I mean, God, I couldn't stop laughing. It was just.
So let's go boat building. Children, this is not the way to do it.
Do you remember much about that second day of steaming?
All of it, all of it. That was a day when there were two things going on. There was a project going on for the American Pride, building a thing called the Samson Post, which is 12 inches by 12 inches by 16 feet long. And so I was trying to contribute to the crew of the American Pride, gluing 6 2-inch thick pieces of Purple Heart together, and at the same time trying to keep track of the steaming. And so a 3/4 inch square piece of wood should be in a steam box for about 45 minutes. And so you have to put the pieces in that are replacing the ones you're taking out on a very specific timetable. And I completely screwed that up. And so we got to the end. We had not broken one single frame, but I was starting to be very conscious of the fact, two things. One, I don't really know when we put these things in the steam box. I don't really know how long they've been in there. And towards the end of that, I thought, yeah, the propane tank's getting low and the temperature's down to about 200. And so I was getting increasingly cranky by the end of the day. I was also dehydrated. And I think by the end of let me just say right now, I'm sorry. I am sorry. I was not a good man. That was not the highest, best form of Greg that day. But we did get all of the frames except the very last ones done without any issue whatsoever. The last one, I think we had about 6 pieces left. We broke all 6.
Now, I'm a recovered perfectionist. My parents were perfectionists, and I finally stopped being a perfectionist.
You know, it's a real curse.
It is.
It is the hardest.
I'm serious.
No, it is.
Yeah.
It is. I worked in mental health for 5 years. I'm not kidding. It is the most difficult thing for people to give up.
No, there is such a thing as good enough,
Yeah.
except in furniture building.
No. Even then, that's how I learned to give it up.
Was building furniture.
Was building it was a 3.5 foot by 7 foot, 1.5 white oak table when oak was the cool thing.
Yeah.
It looks like ugly. I let it set in my shop for no less than 10 months.
Before you could
Before
stand to look at
before
it.
I could stand, before I made a decision, and I was in therapy at the time, made a decision that good was good enough. And that I could get it good, I could not get it perfect.
We're choosing fastenings that are made out of either bronze or, in the case of tying these frames to this floor timber, the floor timber is like this, and the frame is coming in like this. So you've got copper nails that we're driving. So you drill through the oak frame, it's like, yeah, no big deal. You hit the Purple Heart, it's denser. The holes are not giant, so the drill bits are fairly small, and they hang up and break.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Probably the reason the square ones are more favored than the round ones. More expensive. I remember this is called a rose head rivet.
How's that? Oh,
Oh, that works. Oh,
we're talking
see how I tightened it up? Pulled it in?
unbelievable.
Yeah, there's your technique. Okay.
I like that. Okay.
Yeah, it just pulled it right in.
That's a fastening that's essentially a lifetime fastening. It's never going to give us any problems. It's going to hold that frame and that floor timber together. If we were just thinking, how can we slap this together as quickly as possible, we'd go get a bunch of plated deck screws, call it good. But those would rust, they would decay the wood around them. There's times when you have to sort of think to yourself, yeah, this is really a pain, but there's the long-term benefit to it.
Not,
Pretty cool.
Not the prettiest one, but
Yeah,
they'll get better.
I'm real happy with the Purple Heart.
Oh yeah, no, this is cool stuff.
Yeah.
If you were doing this as a traditionally planked boat,
Yeah.
you're going to come in and probably end up putting screws into each of the floors, and then another set of screws into the frames. And so you're holding this together as well with the planking that goes over it.
Got it.
Now, how we're going to do it, we haven't determined.
I haven't figured it out yet. Yeah.
It's wood. It's a living material. It's a growing material. It's an organic thing. Like all of us, it's got imperfections. And like all of us, it breaks at those imperfections.
That's a waste of life to try and be perfect. In fact, it's a curse of life. Is to impose perfection on yourself. Good God, good is good enough.